Welcome to the Covert Access Team podcast. Today I have the privilege of being with Travis Weathers. Travis is the co-founder of the Mayweather Group. He is the co-founder and CEO of VTM Labs. He is a physical security expert, and he has some of the best gear for physical pen testers on the market today, hands down. Travis, can you please just tell a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are for anybody who doesn't know you already?
Sure. First off, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, Brian. It's always great to talk to you. So a little bit about me. I got my start coming out of high school. 9/11 happened, and just like all of my friends, I wanted to go and do my part. So I enlisted in the Army, spent 12 years in Army and Joint Special Operations in some various capacities. Got out in 2014, kind of struggled to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I stumbled onto a website called offensivesecurity.com. Figured out that you can get paid to break into things. So that led me to get the OSCP certification, stepped into a consulting role at Fishnet Security, quickly grew in that organization as that merged to become Optiv Security. Ended up being the practice director of attack and penetration testing at Optiv for about 5 years. Stepped away to a smaller firm, Echelon Risk and Cyber, great company, before eventually stepping off into running Mayweather Group and VTM Labs as my full-time job. So with both of those companies, Mayweather Group is kind of our services company. So we deliver red teams, physical assessments. So we have the practical physical exploitation stores. We do a lot of hardware development, really stuff for professionals that do the same things that we do. We're kind of done and over with messing around with clunky tools. So we wanted to make professional grade tools that we can use anywhere and then bring those to the market as well. So Mayweather Group's pretty great. We just launched a new product called Atlas, which is a Android app just for physical pen testing. Goes a little bit beyond that too. As we kind of started building it out, it kind of just cascaded into one thing or another. So you can directly tie it into protective security details. You can do any type of facility mapping you want to do, kind of help you out. If you're doing an operation, you can quickly go in there, one button click, see where all the flock cameras are set up. Any type of surveillance cameras that people may have mapped out previously just show up on your maps. You can maybe plan ahead as you're doing operations. But we're very excited about that. Very happy to be here.
All right, excellent. And so right off the bat, for anybody who doesn't know, Travis makes some absolutely fantastic stuff. I think the first time that I came across you on LinkedIn and some of your stuff was when you put out your promotional video of, I believe it's you, badging into what looks like a supply closet and then somebody walking up and just taking the reader off the wall and walking off. That was hands down one of my favorite things. I show it all the time to people because it is hilarious and it always gets a laugh. Can you tell people what that is and why you developed it and what it does?
Yeah, so that's our stealth decoy reader. We make them in a bunch of different formats. So just about any commercial reader that's available, we have them in that format. Everything from iClass to normal procs to Paxton readers now for our folks overseas. So essentially, the premise behind it, there's a tool that gets sold by another company that I think is an ESP key. I would always see these things come up or in name, and then people go to use them on client engagements. I'm like, well, what are you doing? First off, you're gonna mar those wires. You're gonna damage things. So you should probably let your client know ahead of time that you're gonna do those things. Maybe let them know that it's gonna cost $1,000, $1,500 for them to repair that reader once you're done. And then on top of it, you don't know if there's an alarm switch tied to it, if there's security screws, if there are epoxy clothes, that kind of stuff. So one, it's kind of destructive in nature. Great concept though. If you can get it in there, it's kind of cool to be able to replay some credentials. But we wanted to find an alternative for commercial penetration testers that was non-destructive. So what we did is we developed customized boards. They're magnetic. They can go on with adhesive strips of whatever nature. And you just go up there, throw it on the building. Reason why we call it a stealth decoy reader is you have a stealth card that as soon as you scan that stealth card, it disables the Wi-Fi, disables the serial debugging. So in instances where they might have wireless detective controls or you want to have some type of anti-forensics measures, you can go ahead and put it in stealth mode. Set it on the building for, we've seen it as soon as, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. you get a badge read, walk right back by, swipe that thing off. But yeah, we've heard nothing but great things from people all over the globe that have used these tools. But definitely one of our best sellers.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely hilarious. So I encourage everybody who does physical pen testing, definitely check that out. I had somebody send me a photograph once of a live job, and what they had done was they put one of your readers just above a real reader, and above all of that, they put a sign that said, "Training new badge reader. Please swipe both badges." And it was hilarious because like within 5 minutes, like you said, like people were swiping both things because they don't understand how this works, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they're very slim, so that the footprint on them are minimal. But I just used one not too long ago, a couple months ago. I went and did a hit at a pharmaceutical company that makes some pretty wild stuff. And they've had hired some other folks that couldn't get in. I think one year they got like arrested because they did something boneheadish. But so they brought us in to go and do the pen test, and within 4 minutes, I did a long range badge clone on the sidewalk outside the facility. I get into the facility and I noticed that their lab area is kind of protected by another reader, which that car didn't have access to. But there was a door that was unlocked just adjacent to the badge reader door. So I came back the next day, threw up a stealth reader, sat in the bathroom for about 5 minutes, right as people were coming in, got a badge read, and Bob's your uncle, man. I was in maybe 5 minutes into a secure lab. So, but yeah, the applications are absolutely insane. I always tell people just put it on a door that isn't typically locked during the day. You can put it on a bathroom if people are going to badge into that thing. So, um, yeah,
We did it just out of curiosity. We had people, it wasn't an engagement. We had people ask us to do it like on elevators and bathrooms and stuff. It never fails. People are just so complacent of swiping badges.
yeah,
It's just you can put it on anything. And it's yeah, it's
yeah. Well, I think it's that the factor of if I see a badge reader there, I should probably swipe in because if I just push this door, I'm going to run my face into the door, and that it's usually that scare of embarrassment. They're going to go for it. So.
yep. Now, another thing that you just mentioned was the long range reader. And up until very recently, until you started putting this out on the market, if you wanted to do a long range reader, which, by the way, for anybody listening, long range is very generous. It's a very generous term. This is not like you're stealing a badge from a block away, you know. But until you put this out on the market, there really wasn't a commercial already ready to go out of box long range reader. But you guys actually have them, both HF and LF long range readers.
Yeah, yeah. So that was probably our first product that really came out was weaponizing those. Before you'd see all kinds of fabric hobbled things of wiring going all every which way, logic level converters, and the guys at Bishop Fox, Francis Brown. First off, that talk is what got me sold when he did the Fantastic RFID Thief on the whole RFID hacking thing many years ago. So I'm very grateful for that talk. That's kind of skyrocketed my passion for physical security. But yeah, it's a lot of wires just all over the place. So we wanted to make it, hey, this needs to be reliable. It needs to work every single time. Needs to be simplified. And then also, I shouldn't have to go to eBay and buy 30 different readers. Maybe one of them works. So we do sell readers that are already ready to go.
And yeah, like I mean, again, it's all of this stuff just works out of the box, and there's a really awesome GUI and UI and everything to work this out. So you're not doing some command line stuff where you're if you don't have the Linux chops to use that stuff. But your new thing that you're putting out is Atlas, and can you kind of tell people what that is and why you made it and what it does?
Yeah, so Atlas is built for operators. So we do a lot of training for folks all throughout the U.S., right? And some of those guys, they're operators, they're shooters, they're guys that don't do tech. So we build all of our products for those guys that have absolutely critical jobs that need to have gear that works all the time, and they need to have a push button. So with Atlas, essentially what our vision behind it was to one, take all of our readers that we make on the market now, have them all communicate to a single device, make it be a single app. It has to be secure. Everything has to be encrypted. And then on top of that, tie in everything else that we might need on a physical pen test. So Proxmark 3, instead of having to plug in a computer, hook up a wire, as long as you've got a legitimate Proxmark 3 RDV4 with a Blue Shark, it will connect automatically to the app. We've got a special version of the Proxmark 3 firmware already compiled, integrated into the app, so you don't have to go and get Termux. And then I saw an influencer talk the other day or a couple months ago about some like TCP/IP bridge thing, and then he had some script, and you'd like everything's just there. It works, right? So you go in, you click your device, it connects, and then on top of that, we want to do everything that we can on a normal physical pen test. So that starts out with our project. So the very first thing you do when you open up the app is you go to project, you create a new project. Inside that project, you can put the name of the project, who your client is. You can put in the address. You could put in, hey, are there armed guards? Are there law enforcement? What type of guards? What are the goals of the engagement? What was the project drivers? All that stuff gets cataloged inside your project information. So that way, when you get on site, you don't have to pull out your SAL anymore. You don't have to pull out your letter of authorization to see what I'm not supposed to be doing, what I'm able to be doing. You just have it all right there in the phone. And then once your project is created, say you go out, you get a badge clone, it'll automatically load into the card database for you. And then once you're ready to write it, you hook up your Proxmark 3, you go into your database and hit write card. It loads up the card write screen. Put your T5577 card or your iClass 2K card, whatever have you on there, and it'll just write the badge data for you. On top of that, we do a lot of geolocation stuff. So say you're on target or you're getting ready to head out on target. We mentioned this about the flock security cameras. You can map all those types of things. It's not always a bad idea for the flock security. I know everyone kind of has their vision on it, but if you're say a company, right, that maybe is concerned about being compromised, it might be a good idea for you to know where all those flock cameras are, or where any publicly mapped camera is in the event of an incident. You could just immediately say, hey, there's cameras across the street. There's this flock camera here. Let's let law enforcement know right away where we know these things are. So you can map those things, but on that map, you can plot things like, hey, here's the cameras. We've got a plethora of every camera that's ever been manufactured is in the app. So you can go in like, hey, that's a Verkada. It's an LPR camera. It has exposed wires. So not only are you mapping what's there, you can put view cones of those cameras. So hey, this is a 180 camera. This is what it looks like. You can adjust that view cone distance. So if a camera's maybe pointed too low at the ground, hey, the view angle on that thing is not right. That maybe that organization needs to tilt it up to get that view angle out a little bit better. So it does everything from that to barriers, entry points. You can define different types of doors, different types of access controls. Everything's kind of tied together. Back to the RFID side, real quick. With the Proxmark, we kind of put everything that you would ever need as an operator in there. So we've got in the card screen, we have card writing, card simulating. So maybe you don't have a T5577 card and you need to use your Proxmark to simulate. You've cloned a badge, you can simulate a card. We've got a smart brute force module in there. I always talk about brute forcing is always kind of like a bad idea on a physical pen test, but there's times where maybe it makes sense, right? Maybe you compromised a badge, you know the facility code, you know the card number, you go use that badge, it gets detected and they disable that badge. Well, most organizations buy sequential access control cards, meaning that they'll buy them in blocks of 100. So chances are, if you go up 5 numbers and down 5 numbers, you might get a good hit on another badge without having to go out and do another clone. So in a pinch, the smart brute force module is there. We've got a hospitality section in there. So in the hospitality section is just that. Maybe you're at a hotel and you need to clone somebody's card. You have a couple minutes access to that card. You can do the cloning right there. Write it to your magic card and go and gain entry into a hotel room. And then finally, we also tie in MSR X6 BLE devices, so magstripe readers already built in. I won't even talk about how long it took me to build that module out. But say, for instance, maybe your target organization has magstripe. Maybe you need to clone a magstripe card, so you can hook up an MSR device, do a magstripe read, clone, write, whatever have you. Every type of credential is pretty much supported. With that, we do have another version of the Stealth Reader that we're going to be releasing later this year that does have the magstripe capabilities on it. So that way, if you do see magstripe, I hope you don't see magstripe in the field, but it's still floating around out there. You can absolutely grab magstripe. So
Yeah,
But
I was about to ask you, like, how often are you like for okay, for any of the young kids out there, what is a mag strike? Because I mean, this is like asking like what is film, right? Like this is something probably a lot of people don't even know.
yeah. So Magstripe, just pull out your credit card. It's that thing on the backside that they don't even let you use anymore. So just a magnetic strip that just contains data, raw data, right? And then we can very easily reference that. So one more thing that we do in Atlas, real quick, is we tie in. We talk about it's very operator centric. So we've automatically tied in TAC server. So if you use ATAC or any of that stuff and you want all of your actions, so say you get a badge clone on your reader to immediately drop into your ATAC server, all you have to do is load in your TAC config. It'll automatically connect. You can tweak a couple settings. You can create new missions. You can send it to whatever mission you want it to go to. But it's really great for situational awareness. As you know, doing operational stuff, it's kind of a benefit to have. So everything that we've kind of bundled in here is just to get guys doing electronic defeat or supporting pen tests or supporting hiring hardening their own environments. You shouldn't have to always go out. I'm a physical pen tester. I'd love every company to come hire me. But sometimes you're like, hey, this vendor just brought in this access control system. They said it's freaking phenomenal. Well, go get the Atlas app, go get a Proxmark 3, and let it let it speak for itself. Maybe it is hardened, maybe it's not.
That's fantastic. Now, for anybody who isn't aware or they've never used ATAC before, can you kind of tell people what that is or how like why what is the benefit of using ATAC?
Yeah, so it's probably gonna mess this up. Tactical Awareness Kit, I think is what TAC stands for. But essentially, it kind of came out of the military, right? So it's a way for people to communicate and see things on the battlefield. So you can do overlays of maps. You can build your GRGs, so your gridded reference graphics. It's just a way to know what's going on in the battle space. So you can upload any type of map data you want. You can get really detailed maps. You can use really far out stuff. You could do route planning, you name it. It's got a bunch of different plugins if you do stuff with drones. Very cool, very complex to set up. Um, I would say if you're going to do it right now, we only support OpenTAC, which is really easy to install, super easy. And if you come to my YouTube channel, which I just stood up, I haven't posted a video yet, Engineered Entry, I'm going to have videos on how to do all of this stuff. So just to walk you through setting it up yourself. But TAC is very powerful, especially if you're working as a team.
Yeah, that's perfect. And for anybody listening to this, I'll throw the his YouTube channel into the description of the of this video so you guys can find it pretty easily. Um, so, what when you're running any of your pen tests, what type of credentials, what type of things are you seeing the most as of right now? And I assume that Atlas and a lot of these tools can cover it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, what I see is a lot of unencrypted credentials. We still see a lot of procs. And when folks do disable procs, we're still seeing a lot of downgrade stuff. So I-class legacy. That it doesn't matter if you have CIOS. I don't care. If you're using standard keyed CIOS and you have legacy support enabled, I'm getting in your facility within minutes. Like it doesn't matter. You spent a lot of money on cards that are doing absolutely nothing if I'm using one of my cloners. So still to this day, I don't know why, but legacy support is enabled and prox cards are out there. I think I have a good idea when people migrate from a prox system to maybe a high security system. They don't wipe out all the cards at one time. They do a staged transition. But the reality of it is they go to buy those new cards and they see that they're $20, $25 a card. They go back to that $2, $3 card every single time. So those legacy systems stay enabled. Multi-class is a killer. I'm telling you, multi-class is a killer.
Yeah. So okay. So I was on an engagement recently. They're running I think it was Desfire 1 or 2 card. So not something that you're typically going to be able to clone with a
Mhm.
flipper or anything else.
Yep.
But they were only using the UID for authentication. So can you kind of walk people through like what you're basically what you're saying like right now? Why is that a problem? Like what is it about it where you have somebody who spends all the money on the best card readers or best card types and everything else, and then they do exactly what you mentioned?
Yeah, so that's actually a great point. So if you grab any of our products, they'll read all the Desfire cards, right? They'll extract the UID and you can go and write those. If they're doing UID only, Why is that an issue? Because a controller on the backside doesn't care what's going on. All it sees is that data stream, and if it matches what it should be, it's going to open that door. So yeah, it's all about implementation. You have to have proprietary keys. If you don't have proprietary keys, you're hosed.
Absolutely. And I can say from, using these types of maps with the tax system and everything else, for anybody who's never used it, it is kind of a pain in the butt to set up, especially if you've never done it before. But once you get it up and running, it really, really helps you and your team to stay organized and uh, understand kind of where everybody is and what you're doing and what you've discovered and everything else. It super, super streamlines everything. So the fact that you got a system that kind of combines all of this stuff together that's something really special. So for people listening to this who are in physical pen testing, definitely go check out his stuff. So is your the YouTube channel that you're spinning up? Are you going to be doing like kind of like how tos and like Q&As and stuff like this on your gear, or what is that? What are you planning on doing with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit on the gear just so people know how to use it, but it's really gonna evolve into what I'm passionate about. So engineered entry is just that. I love engineering, so we're gonna be designing PCBs. We're gonna be doing 3D model designs. We're gonna do code. It's all gonna be there, and it's all geared towards us that do entry or that have um, the call to preserve life. That's probably the biggest thing. I have a farm. I love my chickens, but keeping chickens alive is a full-time freaking job, right? So one of the projects we're going to talk about is how I use radar to keep my chickens safe from predators. So one of those is we kind of took the 209 primer like string line things where you have like a tripwire. It sets off like a little 209 primer bang to scare things away. Well, I've kind of took that, put it on a solenoid, and then put it with radar. So that way, if a coyote ever comes up the backside of my property, it'll it'll catch subtle movements like breathing, and if it gets too close, it'll set off that primer all by itself. So we'll talk about all kinds of cool stuff like that. But really, it's geared towards anybody that has that responsibility or that obligation of preserving life, because that's really what physical security comes down to. I don't really care about data center compromise. I don't care. Like there's insurance that covers all that stuff, but the real problem we're at right now in the world is people gaining access, causing physical harm, causing physical violence. So everything that we do on that channel is going to be geared towards making people safer.
That's fantastic. But I was laughing to myself when you were talking about this because I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, okay, so it's tripwire, basically just a primer stuck into a piece of brass, a hammer, and a spring, and I was like, okay, that's how probably I'd go about doing that. And I was like, and I'm just imagining you going, no, that's not good enough. I need something better.
Yeah, yeah. So you can buy them on Amazon, right? They just have like a little string line, and it's meant for people walking through it, or like if a bear walks through it. No, yeah, we took it, I meshed it together. It's all the way around my property, and then we've kind of taken it one step further. If somebody intrudes on my property, like it's going to pick up their Bluetooth ID, it's going to pick up their probe request, and then it's automatically on the back end going to search those probe requests and maybe even public records to figure out who exactly they are and where they live. So.
Okay, well,
It's
when
pretty
can
wild.
we get that piece of technology? Because that seems pretty amazing, man. Like, when are you going to advertise that to the public?
We'll see. We might if the channel goes good. We'll see how far we'll take it. But
All right. Well, okay. So everybody go to his YouTube channel because I want to get a part of that technology, and we need to blow up his channel. So, all right. So you're telling about a pharmaceutical company that previously they'd had a pen test, it failed, and apparently the guys got arrested. I won't ask why. But you were able to bypass all of this with a long range reader and a stealth reader and a trip to the bathroom. Um, what is it that you want to tell companies? Like, so what is it that you want to tell them when it comes to like physical security that like actually make them safe, right? Because I mean, this type of thing, especially with your tools, it becomes almost child's play to get into even secure facilities. So like, what do you tell these people?
it's yeah. So it comes down to two things. One, it's layered security, right? You've got to be doing everything right, not just some things right. And this company did do a lot of really good things. Their security guards were phenomenal, but there's all these little distractions throughout the day. Like, hey, my wife's calling. I'm going to step away from the guard desk and I'm going to go take this phone call. Well, that's a leveraged point for me to gain entry, right? If I'm sitting there conducting surveillance, analyzing your movements, I'm going to know when I can leverage things. So having layered security beyond just access controls, you can't just blindly trust those things. The vendors are going to try to sell you whatever they're going to sell you. And the second they realize that they're selling you like Desfire EV3 system with face analytics and all that stuff, and you see the price tag on it, they're just as happy wiping all that stuff out and selling you a proc system that's well under your budget, right? So having layered security goes a long way. And I would also say who you hire to do physical security assessments matters. I can tell you that a good 60-70% of the penetration testing world has absolutely zero clue what they're doing when it comes to physical assessments. There might be one or two guys that's like, yeah, I do the lockpick village. Okay, well, I can tell you the number of times I've picked a lock to gain entry to a facility in my entire career, and it's maybe 3 or 4 times, right? The reality of it is if you're not fully versed on what the technologies are in place that secure a facility or why these things are secured, you're not going to be great at doing the assessment, right? So, or they'll just say like, hey, yeah, I tailgated in, or I'm just going to use social engineering. Okay, well, social engineering, Drew Porter, Porter Tradecraft had a great video about this a couple months ago, talking about social engineering. It has its place in its time, right? We're assessing people. If you want a facility security assessment where you assess the controls of your facility, you have to assess those controls. You can't fall back to social engineering. That's a social engineering engagement. Now, is it a viable approach? Absolutely, but you actually have to dive in and see, hey, is this door lloydable? Is this access control system actually secure? You can't just blindly go, oh, that's iClass SE. I'm not getting that. You might, is it standard keyed? Yeah, you're absolutely going to get after it, right?
You've mentioned this a couple times. You've mentioned clients not using standard keys, and you've mentioned or sorry, clients using standard keys. And you've mentioned how a lot of technologies are kind of legacy or vulnerable to downgrade attacks and this type of thing. Can you explain to people a little bit more about what that means and why it's such a big problem?
Yeah, so with your standard keying, right? Essentially, that allows anyone with a reader of the same standard key to analyze that data. So if you're using, say, an iClass SE reader on your facility, and I bring a long range iClass SE reader that has the same keys in it, it's going to authenticate with your card. And on the back end, I'm going to capture the Wiegand data that contains the bit length of the card, the facility code of the card, and the card number itself. So if you use something like an Elite key, maybe you might be able to do some static analysis where you're sniffing keys, and you can deduce it from there. But in an adversarial standpoint, unless you have physical access to the key, you're not going to be able to do that. So having an Elite key, I can no longer take my products that are all standard keyed and try to read your card. That data is going to be mangled and garbled on the back end. It's just not going to work, right? So, and then that also ties into downgrade attacks. Well, let's look at CIOS, SE, and iClass Legacy. So iClass Legacy was compromised many years ago. If you look at the Heart of Darkness white paper, he leaked all the encryption decryption keys to the internet. So now all that stuff is kind of built into the Proxmark 3. You can go get those keys. You can leverage those keys, and what that enables you to do is to get an iClass 2K card. You can write iClass SC data to that 2K card, and if legacy support is enabled on an iClass SE reader, you can then use that 2K card to go badge into a facility. You can actually take it one step further, and you can flip the trailing bit on, I think it's block 6, from a 17 to a 14, and you can tell that reader, hey, don't even use encryption, just take the raw data, and then you could just pass raw data. You don't even have to encrypt the 2K card. But and that same attack applies down the end. So if you were to have a multi-class reader, you could take that CIOS card, and if they're doing hid procs, you can write that same data, that bit length, facility code, card number, scan that card, and again, we talked about the backend controller. It doesn't do anything with the encryption. It just takes that communication from the reader, reads the data. Oh, that's the card number I'm looking for. I'm opening that door. It does not care at all what the technology was in most cases that was presented to the reader.
Yeah, that's a really really good summary, man. I literally was in I'll just say a government secure facility, and I was talking to somebody who had been in charge of granting and writing access control cards for I think like 30, 40 years. And I was explaining very similar things to what you were just going through, and she had no idea. She was like dumbfounded. She was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And I was just like, yeah, it is a thing. But it's wild. Like when you talk to people in industry who are like, public, government, whatever, and private, and you explain this to them, and they're like, I didn't know that was real. I didn't know that was a thing. And you're like, yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all right. So suppose that I've gone to your website, I've purchased both a long range reader and a stealth reader, and I've got the Atlas. How do they work together? Like if I want to use all these stuff on an engagement, how would I go about it?
Sure, yeah. So if you've got Atlas and you've got your readers, the long range readers, the way they work is a little bit different than stealth readers. So the long range reader will connect to your phone. So kind of use it as an egress point. So if you're not using Atlas at all, it has a way to egress and send notifications. So if you're walking around, you got your phone in your pocket, you probably shouldn't be on your phone like bumbling around while you're doing badge cloning, looking to see if you got a badge read right when you walk past somebody with a card, right? So your phone will be away, you get your badge read, it'll send a notification, either text or email to whoever the receiving party is. It could just be you, and you get a notification on your watch or what have you that you got a good badge read. So that's how the long range readers work. Not only that, if you're using the long range reader, it connects to your phone. All the other operators that are with you, as long as they're in range, they can connect to your phone as well, and they can monitor those logs in real time. With the stealth reader, it's a little bit different. It doesn't call back to you. You have to directly connect to it because the premise behind it is a leave behind device. So you want to be able to connect to it whenever you want. With when it comes to Atlas, as long as you're connected to a stealth reader, or as long as a long range reader is connected to your device, it'll automatically see that device. It'll automatically communicate with that device. So you'll just go in, and if you get a badge read, it's going to show up on your phone. You'll get that notification. You can send it to a tax server, whatever you want to do with that. Or you can manually import. You can do all your management. So you never have to go to the individual portals of those devices ever again. It's all built into the app. So if you want to clear card data, you want to change settings, it's all done right in there. But it's super easy, super seamless. It'll know exactly, hey, this is my device. Let me extract all the data from it. Hey, do you want to import all these existing cards, dump these existing cards, that kind of stuff.
Okay, excellent. So I know that previously you had I think you called it like a doppelganger assistant. I might be, maybe I have that wrong.
Yeah.
But it was a way of helping to kind of bridge between credentials that you had stolen with one of your long range or stealth readers, and then use that to write to a card. So is that still necessary?
For now, if you're going to do stuff on the computer, yes. So if you're going to, so say if you don't have Atlas and you just have the Stealth or the Long Range Reader, and you still don't want to bumble around in the Proxmark 3 command line, you can go and grab Doppelganger Assistant. It's open source. It runs on Windows, Mac, Linux. Essentially, you just plug your Proxmark 3 into your computer. Everything that's available in our long range and stealth readers is available in Doppelganger Assistant. It'll just write all the card data that you want. It's not anywhere near as complex as Atlas app, but depending on how Atlas app does, we'll bring that to the desktop world and maybe even a server version of it to where people can kind of manage all products or all projects or missions that are going on from the desktop. But we'll see how the market takes to it, and if it takes them, we'll build it out.
Okay, interesting. So, could you walk me through? So, for anybody who doesn't know, can you explain to them, like, let's say you've got a long range reader or something, and you get a badge read, and that's let's say that all we have is one of your long range readers, and we grab a badge. Could you walk us through the process then of I've gotten a badge, how do I actually get a working, functioning card?
Sure, absolutely. So two cards that you're going to want to have on you at all times. One is a T5577 card. So that's your low frequency card that lets you write HID procs, Indala, EM, AWID, Paxton Net2. And then the other card that you're going to want to have, at least if you're in the States, because iClass is very prevalent here, is an iClass 2K card. Those are readable, rewritable cards that we can leverage those compromised encryption keys to write iClass SE what have you data. So as long as you have those two things, the only other thing that you're going to need is a Proxmark 3 style device. We have to have a way to take that extracted credential that we got from our target and put that into use. That Proxmark 3 is our bridge or our path to doing that. So you can either plug that thing in directly into your computer, go from the command line. If you're in the command line, the best thing that you could do to remember commands, if you know you caught a low frequency card, type LF, hit enter. It's going to give you a bunch of options. If it's a HID card, LF, HID, hit enter. It's going to give you a lot of options. You'll see clone is an option. LF, hit clone, hit enter. It's going to give you the exact syntax that you need. So it's by no means a complex task to do. If you want to know bit lengths, if you type Wiegand list, it's going to give you all the Wiegand formats for the bit length you have. But if you want to do it the easy way, you go grab Doppelganger Assistant. It'll install the Proxmark 3 firmware. It'll update your Proxmark 3 device. And then all you have to do is take that bit length, facility code, and card number that's in your dashboard of our Doppelganger Core Stealth. Plug those numbers directly in, set your card on the reader, and hit go. I will say that the low frequency cards are temperamental. So what I do in Doppelganger Assistant and then also in Atlas is I write those things like 5 times before I go to check to see if it was written correctly. So you just set it on the reader, hit go, let it write, you move the card a little bit, you let it write again, you move the card a little bit, maybe you flip it over, and all that stuff is configurable in Atlas. But that's the way I found to do it instead of just hitting the up arrow and hitting enter a bunch of times to see if it writes properly. But
Sure. Perfect.
once you have it written though, you're good to go.
Awesome. Now let's assume, by contrast, you have a long range reader and you have Atlas. Does that change the steps in any way, shape, or form, or is it still the same
Oh
steps?
yeah. Yeah. So with Atlas, you kind of everything's so much faster, right? So you could get a badge clone at one edge of the street. You can have a badge written by the time you get to the other side of the street. So what that allows you to do, say you get a badge clone with your long range reader, you add that to your database, you go to the card writing screen, you connect your Proxmark 3 over Bluetooth, you hit import from database, you select the card that you just captured, and then you hit write and you're done. There's no wires. Your Proxmark 3 can be in your pocket, could be in your backpack. Your blank card could already be on your hip. It should probably already be on your hip if you're in the client area, and that blank card should probably already look like a replica of their badge. But as soon as you have that, you're good to go. Now, I wouldn't recommend seeing how fast you can go from clone to entry. There's a lot of steps in between that you want to, hey, I got a badge clone. All right, now let's go do some more. Let's go do some more surveillance and map out entry. A lot of times you'll see people get in trouble. They're like, hey, I got this. Let's see how fast we can do this and fly home. No, let's take it seriously because the clients paid us to take it seriously. But yeah.
All right, awesome. That's impressive. I mean, my first thought was, I wonder how fast Canada is going to ban it. With their,
Well,
um,
that's to that point. That's why we opened up 2 channels. So it will go in the Google Play Store. You can grab it from the Google Play Store. But the best place to get Atlas is at atlas.mwgroup.io, and you can download it directly from there. And the reason why we say that is we don't want anybody blocking usage of it. But also, we really kind of built it for Graphene OS. It'll run on standard Android, but as security conscious folks doing highly sensitive work, everything has to be encrypted. Everything needs to be segmented off. So we do recommend running it on something like Graphene OS.
sure. And just to be clear to everybody, I don't think that this runs on iPhone. Is that correct?
No, so we can de-Google an Android. We can't de-Apple an iPhone. So that's not to say that it won't one day be on an Apple device or on iOS. We have to figure out the logistics of that. We probably have to have a conversation with the folks over at Apple to see if it even fits their market space or if we spend hundreds of hours developing it and then it gets pulled for being a hacking tool. Even though we don't consider it a hacking tool, we consider it a security operations platform.
Yeah, I will tip my hat to you and wish you the best of luck trying to convince Apple to do that. I don't think you're going to have a lot of luck, but yeah. So you have a very impressive resume when it comes to breaking into some extremely secure facilities. What recommendations or what piece of advice would you give people who are kind of entering into the physical pen testing space? Like, I'm working at Deloitte, or I'm working at Accenture or NCC or wherever, and they're about to send me on my very first physical pen test. Like, what advice would you tell these people?
So learning as you go on physical pen tests is not great. I don't want to pitch my own company here, but I'll do it right. You find training that's specific for that. If you want to go do network penetration testing, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go do your CRTO. You're gonna go after the OSCP. You should do the same thing, even more so when it comes to physical pen testing. It's something that's actually hands-on and not theoretical, right? So there's a lot of physical pen testing classes. It's like a week-long boot camp on RFID. You don't need to know everything about RFID. You need to know this is a technology, I can compromise it and then gain entry. What you do need to know is how your nerves respond in those actual situations. So get a class that as part of the class, you go break into a building. So that way the nerves can be high. You have a letter of authorization. If the sheriff shows up, you get to work through those problems in a controlled environment. Whereas, as you just mentioned, you're nervous, you're getting ready to go on your first physical pen. No one's ever trained you. Only thing you've ever seen is Black Hat talks, and now here you are trying to figure things out. You don't realize that when you get there and you break that threshold, your face goes red and you shoot your brains out, right? Like just everything goes everywhere, and you're like, I don't know what to do. Gain some composure, get comfortable with it. I can also tell you that it's not for everyone. There's plenty of people that I've taken out on physical pens, and they're like, this was really fun. I was terrified, and I never want to do it ever again. So it's not for everyone. That's the reality. But I would say, if anything, network, talk to people that have been doing it a long time, and then go get training that's geared actually towards breaking into buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree with that any more than you just said it. But now, please tell people, like, so you run a physical pen testing class. Please tell people like where it is and where they can go and how they can get it, and you know,
Yeah.
also,
So
is it available to everybody, or do you have to have like prior military or law enforcement to gain access?
no, that's great. So the practical physical exploitation course. So that was really where we started. Even before Creating Gear was teaching people. Um, but we run it in Tampa, Florida. We run it in different flavors, right? So we've got public offerings that we run usually once a quarter. We've got private classes. So if you're like an internal bank or what have you, red team, you can come down and we'll give you a private class. And then we do it, of course, for government entities of all different types and flavors. So our next public class is January 28th to 30th. It's always in Tampa. The reason why we do it in Tampa is because you spend about 3 hours, 4 hours in the classroom learning the fundamentals, and then you actually go out in downtown Tampa, mixed in with the general population, mixed in with role players where you're doing operations. And then at the tailing end of day two, we give you a statement of work, we give you a letter of authorization, we do a mock kickoff call, and then we set you live on our facility that has about 60 or 70 cameras on it, different access controls. You have a period of darkness to do some surreptitious entry stuff, and then you get to do another day of more electronic defeat measures to gain entry into it. Once you gain entry into it, it's like a playground, right? If you want to shell a computer, get C2 presence, you can absolutely do that. You do normal sensitive site exploitation or post exploitation as part of the class. But really great class. We start anybody, all walks of life. So if you're a sales guy selling physical pens, this class is for you. We talk about pre-sales, why people lose physical pen testing deals. We talk about level of effort, how to price it out, how long you should be on site. And then we move into reporting. We talk about reporting up front, because if you don't start your pen test reporting, by the time you get to the end of it, you're kind of hosed. And then we roll into remote reconnaissance, on-site surveillance, threat profiling, physical access, post-exploitation, and then we do a full report and debrief as part of that 3-day event. But the reason why we do it for 3 days is because physical engagements are very high tension. You never know what's going to happen. You always feel like you're behind. So we like the pressure to be there in a comfortable way. So that way people kind of get the, hey, if you don't hurry up, you're going to miss your opportunity.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I mean, it like, and I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I've had people, I won't name names, but I've had people at big companies. They're like, oh yeah, we sent, Bob's a web app pen tester, and he's never done anything with physical pen testing before, so we sent him on a real engagement to learn. Like, I've seen people do that. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. You're more so than hosing that consultant over, you're hosing that client over. Like they rely on you. Maybe, yeah, they're concerned about someone planting a drop device in their environment, but there's far more critical things that could happen or go wrong should someone breach an environment. And if they have the false security because Jimmy couldn't get in, then yeah, it's bad. So that's egg, could be egg on your face, could be a foiled client relationship. Who knows?
Well, absolutely, because I mean, like, if the client is going to be paying you probably a large sum of money to basically test their physical security, and Bob or Jimmy, who's never done a pen test before, they're like, well, I tried to tailgate, it didn't work, so done, right? Like, what did you give the client? They're like, what did they
Yeah,
just buy from you? It's like nothing.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I always tell folks like the CTO can have their kids tailgate in if he wants a test for tailgating, right? Yeah, is it a viable attack path? Yes. Are you doing your client the due diligence of assessing their security controls by following someone in? Maybe if their only concern is if their anti-piggybacking sensors work. But other than that, no, no. Yeah, if that's your go-to, then physical pen test isn't for you.
Yeah, and you had also mentioned something that I really want to touch on for a second. You had mentioned people in like sales and pre-sales and other people should take classes like this. I 100% agree, but I'm curious why you made the statement because it's very, very good because pre-sales and sales, they don't tend to understand what physical pen testing is or why you do it or anything. So
Yeah.
why do you send sales to these types of classes?
Yeah, so when I worked at Optiv, right, I probably did more physical security assessments at Optiv than anywhere else, hands down. The guys were on the road all the time. We built an incredible physical security program over there. But with that, sales folks would be like, "Oh, hey, let's just tack on one more facility while we're there. It's only 30 minutes from the other site." Well, if you sell it like that, then I got to go deliver it like that. And sometimes 30 minutes from the site in the middle of the week is an actual 2 hour drive, right? So you got to assess one building and then you got to go do recon on another building. You got to drive 2 hours to get there, drive 2 hours back to your hotel. Next thing you know, you have no time to do work on two facilities, or you have no idea how long it actually takes to do these things until you actually do them. So you bring a sales guy in, not only do they get access to all of our sales material, we give everybody like full blown sales material. We've got letter of authorization, all that stuff that's been vetted by our lawyers for you to adapt into your own practice if you're standing this up, right? So it gives you everything that you need from a legality standpoint to get things going, how to sell it, but it also gives them the realistic, hey, what's possible on a physical pen test? Now they can have that conversation. This is what happens on physical pen. And they get fired up about it. Like, have you ever seen a sales guy fired up about selling a physical pen before? I have. It's phenomenal. They're like, yeah, these guys, they're going to come in. It's going to be amazing. At the end of it, you're probably going to fire all your security vendors. You're gonna have X amount more budget to go and do the things that you really want to do because these guys are going to lay waste to everything. So, but yeah, seeing sales guys in there is phenomenal.
Yeah. And one other group that I always encourage people, so there's actually a lot of people I encourage to do this, but one group that uh, kind of always people just give me a kind of weird look when I say this is, but you should send your defensive team to physical pen testing courses because
Absolutely.
they don't understand like the defensive side, they don't always look at problems the same way as the offensive side of things. So
Mhm.
would you recommend people send their defensive teams or their SOC members or whoever to come to these classes?
Man, everyone should. So I don't care if you're sitting at a guard desk monitoring security cameras or if you're on a protective security detail. Um, there's a lot of folks that have a bunch of misnomers about what's actually possible. So say, for instance, we'll use the protective security detail. You're advanced party, right? You're going and looking at this facility, like, oh yeah, there's a door there. It's got RFID. There's some cameras here. What are the type? What's the capabilities? What's the response time? What's this? Like these are normal questions you would ask, right? But if you actually have firsthand knowledge or you have equipment with you there, hey, let me see your card. Oh yeah, this is easily clonable. We're not coming anywhere near this door. Someone's going to be posted up at this door, right? When we get on site. So protect security details. Absolutely critical for them to be at a place where you can learn every way to break into a building, right? For just protecting the principle. But SOC, you name it. What is actually capable? How do I know that my controls are working? Maybe if I had some training and $1,000 worth of tools, I can go and assess all these things myself, and then I can save myself $100,000 a year on a physical pen test. So
Yep, absolutely. It's fascinating how there's just a lot of misconceptions, and it's not saying anything bad about the blue team or the defensive side. It's just we just look at problems different. You know, it's we're our job is to simulate the bad guy. That's not what the defense is supposed to do. But bringing them into this and exposing them to it, they kind of understand a little bit more of like I had a CISO once at a from a very large company. He asked me point blank during a class, he said, "What lock would you put on this door to make sure that nobody could ever breach the room?" And I said, "Okay, well, why don't you go out? We'll take a lunch. You guys go out into the. This is a live office." I said, "Go out into the office. Go wander around. Tell me what you find." And within 10 minutes, somebody came back and said, "Oh, hey, I found the keys to the entire building in the janitor's closet." And I was like, "Yeah, exactly. Like, so what do you mean? Like, there is no lock that I could put on that door because somebody has to have access, right?"
Yeah, 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 yeah. There's no stopping it. But all you can do is layer that security, understand your response procedures, your escalation paths, and then drill those things, right? So I've done a number of facility walkthroughs where, hey, we're not doing anything offensive, but we're going to go and look at viewing angles of cameras, look at controls, talk to the guard staff, see how they would respond to certain things. And they had a playbook that was maybe 300 pages long that they all read on their first day and then they never open it again. Like, well, it says that you're supposed to do this if this happens. Have you trained that? Have you drilled that? No. Well, if an event happens, what are you gonna do? You're gonna thumb through this book? So my principal finding in that engagement was, hey, you've got this brilliant plan, exhaustive plan, but none of these people know how to enact on it should a live incident occur. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna call the police. Okay. Then what are you gonna do? I'm going to stay here because I'm told I'm not allowed to talk to anyone. So if somebody's getting hurt over there, you're going to do nothing. You're here with a sidearm and you're going to do nothing. So, yeah.
Well, probably the best example of what you just described, or maybe an example of what you just described, was the Louvre heist, where I don't know if you heard about this, but I think it was four idiots brought a crane, a mobile crane, up to the second story window of the Louvre. Two guys with
Uh,
axle grinders cut into the room or into a room, and come inside. And despite the fact that the Louvre has God knows how much, I think it's like $300 million a year budget, and they have dozens and dozens of security guards. The security guard's standard operating procedure was if somebody threatens you with a weapon, run away. And it was like, despite that, so two idiots got inside with axle grinders, and despite that they were outnumbered like 50 to 1, they were like, well, hey,
uh,
we got a weapon, we'll run away. Right. And so people ran off with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stuff. And it was like, how did you do that?
yeah, that's people getting jobs that maybe they shouldn't have. But I guess that may not be fully on them if their mission statement said, "Hey, you're gonna run." I don't know. I don't know. I think some people are wired differently. I don't. I'm not a policy guy at the very highest levels. I do write security policies a lot. A lot of times people are like, "Whoa, I don't know that I recommend doing that," but
So
all right.
what would your recommendation be for the blue team? So okay, so you were in front of a security operations center or facility manager or CISO or whoever, and they ask you, what can we do to reasonably increase our security? What do you tell them?
Yeah. So security kind of breeds itself, right? Just like kind of negativity does. You ever see someone really negative walk into an office and they're pissed off because they're in traffic? That like cascades a whole office, brings them down. You do the same thing for security in a positive way. You can have folks call people out on tailgates, right? Hey, we've got a tailgating culture here. Let's just kind of mix in with the population and we see it like, hey, you should probably shouldn't do that. And then maybe give like a reward system for calling things out like that. Now, it's not always easy for someone to call out something that looks weird, right? Um, hey, this guy followed me in. Turns out it was like the CEO's brother and you just called it in. You might feel like an idiot, but also at the same time, there should be like a reward system to do those things to foster good behavior. So I think the best thing a blue team can do is kind of spread like wildfire and do those things. Have a channel, open up a channel that's discreet, like, hey, anybody can call this, anyone can drop a message in this chat anonymously saying they saw something weird, and then have an enforceable timeline. If somebody's responsible for responding to those things, as trivial as it may seem, not getting complacent, go and actually respond to those things. Go take a look at it. It could be 9 times out of 10 that it's absolutely nothing. But one time out of 10, it could be something. So foster a good environment. Be
Yeah,
that driver.
absolutely. And kind of going back a step, but still talking about the blue team, I know Atlas is kind of geared towards offensive work, but honestly, with the tax system, I imagine that you could probably use it pretty well with the blue team as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So Blue Team can absolutely use it. You can go in there and map your own security controls, right? You don't say you're getting ready for a physical pen test. You know it's coming up this year. You can go and maybe think about the things that you think are going to fail on this engagement. So you can go outside, you can label up all of your cameras, you can put them on the map, you can look at the viewing angles to see what might need to be adjusted, fixed, tweaked. You can look at all your access controls, you can look at your entry points. There's a list that you might not know what you're looking for, but if you go into entry points inside of Atlas, you'll see a list of every type of door, every type of lock, every type of keyway, every type of sensor, anything that could be missing, and you can mark things. Oh, this might be able to be bypassed. Things that you don't think about. So it can kind of help you catalog all those things well in advance. And then if you are a blue team and you want to do a full simulation, right? You can say, hey, physical pen tester, we've got this tax server. We're using Atlas. Pull up Atlas. We want to kind of see where everything is, where everything's going. Not because we want to have a gotcha moment, but if a live incident happens, we'd like to see in real time if it was you or if it was maybe something else.
Yeah, absolutely. That honestly, that sounds fantastic. So when you okay, so I mentioned a little bit ago, about your advice to the new pen tester out there. Do you what equipment would you recommend aside from the gear that you're running, of course? But what gear would you recommend that physical pen testers actually bring to an engagement? If you could make like a gear bag or something and say, all right, this is what you should bring. What would that be? What would be in that gear
Yeah.
bag?
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get my little EDC pouch and
Of
I'll
course.
walk through. All right. So my EDC pouch, it's maybe I'll post a picture of it here later today. It's about, I don't know, 4 inches wide by maybe 5 inches tall. And inside this EDC pouch, or better yet, just hanging off the side of it, number one thing that I've adopted and carried is the Covert Instruments, the Covert Companion Pro. It's kind of wiped out all of my operational lockpicks, right? So it's got everything you could ever need on an operation without bringing a full kit. So that's absolutely hands down. Then I've got this little key ring here with every type of common key that you'll ever run into. It's all organized. I don't have to bumble through it. Absolutely critical for what I do. However, we talked about the master key to the building. Well, these are master keys to a lot of access controls, elevators, freaking panel boxes, door kings, you name it. There's default keys that just come with those things when you buy them, and having those common keys is a good idea. I do also carry a Leatherman. I carry the Signal. I like the Signal because I live in a rural area and my kids love to go out and do rural things. So we do like fire starting and all that kind of stuff. But it's got everything I need from like a screwdriver standpoint, a blade, what have you. When I open it up, I've got a pair of electrician shears. These ones are from Klein. Super small. You never know when you need some sturdy scissors. Got some paracord, about 20 feet of it rolled up. Number one thing is a good lamp. So I use this, I don't know what it's called. Um, Woobeam G5. Super small lamp, does red light. I can hook it to my shirt. I can hook it to my hat. Um, a must have. And then, of course, I've got a little screwdriver set, got everything that I can use in it. Then a dual purpose pen pencil and a notepad. That's everything that I would need that's not RFID related. Now, in my RFID kit, super simple. If I'm going and all I could bring was what I can carry in my backpack, I'm going to bring a Stealth Reader, a Proxmark 3, and my Atlas phone. And then, of course, cards. And that's it. Everything else I can do right there on site.
So, out of curiosity, with that equipment, what do you think the percentage of locations you could break into would be? Do you think you get into like 100% of all locations? There's not one place on earth that could keep you out, or is it like how many do you think you could get into?
Man, so I talk about this with my students. Like, how many times have you been caught? Never. Because rule number one is don't get caught. Rule number two is look cool while you're doing it, and safety third. But I would say with what I carry, probably I'm not going to say 100%. I'd say 95%. There's not a facility that I have assessed that I haven't gotten into and accomplished all the objectives, but we'll say 95% because there's probably a couple out there that I couldn't get into.
I mean, so the really fascinating part, the reason I brought that up is that there's a lot of people out there who think that you need to be to the like wired to the hilt with James Bond level stuff,
No,
right?
you don't.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of people think that. Like when you explain to them like duct tape and a paperclip will defeat a maglock, they're like, sorry, what? Like
Yeah,
they don't understand this stuff. So
yeah.
what do
Use
you?
what's available to you. Yeah. And I would say if you're getting into physical pen testing, let that company buy you a kit. Like they should be, if they expect you to go do something at a professional level, you should have professional tools. If you're trying to learn these things, start small. We always talk about lock picking. Lock picking is a great skill to develop. It's a tactile skill that takes time. So if you start early, you'll build those repetitions. But where are you going to use lock picking on a physical engagement? Filing cabinets, internal doors, things of that nature. You're not going to be going after a medico on the outside, right? You're just not going to be doing it. Maybe if you're the lockpicking lawyer or McNally, love both of those guys, by the way. Watching their videos, I'm just like I suck at all of this, but unless you have those skills, which you can absolutely develop those skills, you're probably not going to be doing those things on outside. But learn the common things. Get simple tooling. Proxmark 3 is not overly expensive. Um, yeah.
Well, like you said, I mean, your company that you're running, assuming you're not like self-employed, but the company that you're running should be buying you like the basic equipment, right? They you should be, being a whistleblower if your company is like, go to a physical pin test and we're not giving you any gear whatsoever. It's like,
But they'll spend $15,000 a year on a Nessus license.
yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, exactly. Jesus Christ. Wow, yeah, that brings back a lot of crazy, stupid stories. Yeah. Um, sorry. So okay, so one question that I wanted to ask you about Atlas, and really just the readers in general. What type? So I understand that most of your tools will do most card types, but what card types would you encounter that your tools will not do? Just so that people are aware. But and just for so we're clear, his stuff does pretty much everything.
Yeah, so we will not do anything. So my fair stuff, it's only going to grab UID. So Desfire, only going to grab UID. PIV class cards, it's only going to grab UID. Why is it only going to grab those things? Because that's all that comes out on that back end Wiegand. Unless I went and made my own reader that I can build in the communication protocols for it, it's not going to do it. So I would say if you're building a facility or if you're getting things going, Desfire EV3 all the way every day, or some type of elite keyed COS, SE, what have you, is going to get you much further. But other than that, man, we'll clone anything. And if there's a reader that we don't support, Paxton was one. Someone said, "Hey, we need a Paxton reader," so I went and bought a Paxton controller and a bunch of Paxton readers. Now we have a whole Paxton line. I think NEDAP, is that how you say it over there? NEDAP.
Yep.
Still trying to get my hands on some NEDAP readers. So if someone wants
Yeah.
to send me a reader, I'm more than happy to weaponize one of those. But yeah, I don't think the sky's the limit really on how far we can go with it.
Yeah. So, okay. So, right off the bat, a lot of people who are doing this kind of thing, you're going to be operating in a region or an area, at least at the very beginning, or primarily. You might, your company might send you international from time to time, but you're probably going to be operating in kind of like a specific area. And within that area, you're probably going to be seeing the same types of technology, readers, et cetera, over and over and over. So, if you are operating in, Thailand, South America, Latin America, wherever, and you're seeing the same reader over and over and you're like, man, I really wish I could have a weaponized reader. Could they send you one or send you a request and be like, could you make a stealth reader out of this?
Yeah, yeah. Shoot me a note. I'll look up the technology, and if I think it could be done, if you don't mind sending me a reader, I'll send it right back to you, fully weaponized. Um, but I'll add it to the catalog.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so you're basically Q, right? Like
Yeah,
you're just making gear for people.
I'm telling you, man, I'm a physical pen tester turned engineer, and it's really my passion in life. So I love building stuff that people can use.
That's fantastic. So okay, so for the MyFair stuff, just for a moment. So if you steal the UID, you can still access the reader, right?
Yeah, in some instances, there have been some buildings where I've got the UID, and maybe I don't know if it's OSDP or something back end where the UID was not enough to get entry. But 9 times out of 10, UID is enough to get entry. It won't work on the additional stuff like, hey, you've got a CAT card that you've got to plug the chip in, or maybe you got to use it for validating log into a computer. Um, it's not going to work there, right? Where there's more authentication in play. But most times UID has worked, but there have been times where it has not.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not lying. I've done this on Des fires before, and just the UID alone is enough to get inside buildings.
Mhm.
So it is a really common thing, which brings me to my very next question, which is when it comes to access control systems, what do you think is the biggest flaw people do? Like as of today, right now, what do you think? What is the biggest either misconception people have, or the thing that people keep screwing up?
Implementation. So I think one of the big things, high security facilities, I see this every single time. They do not have a badge in, badge out policy. So meaning if I was to clone your badge, even if you had like a prox card, right? Just unencrypted prox card, and that prox card was only granted access into the facility from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then it was killed. If you put in anti-piggybacking controls, or not, I'm sorry, anti-passback controls, the chances that I take that clone card and gain entry, slim to none if you have to badge out in order to badge back in. So that's probably the biggest thing is not knowing where to put uh, anti-passback stuff.
Right.
So high security facilities, it should absolutely always be there. Granted, emergency exits, you got to be able to tap to get out when needed. But daily operations, it's not too much to ask of your employees if they're going to badge in that they should badge out too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic advice. And I was about to ask you this, and you kind of answered it, but I'll ask it anyway. The biggest pushback or the biggest hurdle that I tend to come across when it comes to remediation is fire code. Like you're like, okay, I want you to implement X, Y, and Z, and they're like, but fire code. So you had mentioned like, okay, badge in, badge out. That's a fantastic thing, right? But I immediately hear CISOs going, but we can't trap people in a building if it's burning, blah blah blah. So okay, so help me understand like why that's like I guess just navigate that problem set.
Yeah, yeah. So that's absolutely true, right? You can't block someone in, but you can put a push to exit. You can have a crash bar is the same thing, right? You're pushing on it and in an emergency, it's going to go, right? So there's a number of things that you can put in place that you don't have to just automatically fall back to that friggin' rec sensor that's easily bypassed anyways. So, yeah, fire code is there. Yes, I agree. But if we condition employees to know what's available to them, everything will be just fine. And if an emergency happens, the first person that crashes through that door, it should lock open, right? There should be a way to hold that door open. So that way, if there is a fire, everyone else can just run out that door.
Yeah, so I wanted to, yeah, that's absolutely true. I wanted to get your take on something because oftentimes what I hear from people is when they have the bigger a facility is, right? When you think of like major facilities, military, government, things like this, there's this misconception, or well, there's this idea that security must be so high, only an idiot would try to break into that facility. But I wanna get your take on that concept. Like nobody would break into the FBI headquarters, or nobody would break into wherever because it's too well guarded. Like it's not possible.
So if someone has an intent to break into a facility, they're going to break in. They're going to get in. That's like saying like nobody can hack into XYZ, right? If someone has enough drive and purpose, whatever that drive and purpose are, it's going to get them to the point where they're going to do that. Look back was it last year or was it are we 2 years now? The CEO that was assassinated in New York. With enough drive, someone's going to put themselves in a position, track down the calendar, know where that person's movements are to do those things. It doesn't matter if you're a government entity. It doesn't matter if you're critical infrastructure that's got all the money in the world to have all the controls. It doesn't matter what it is. Somebody's going to get in if they have enough intent and drive to do those things.
Yeah, and there's another. You're absolutely right, but there's another aspect of this that I find. You mentioned complacency earlier, and that's a huge killer for security.
Mhm.
Uh, but I was talking to a risk assessment guy, and he was telling me that on any given company, they estimate, regardless of to the industry, between 5 and 10% of your employees are doing stupid stuff, right? Wearing the badges outside, leaving a badge, in their car or at a cat
Mhm.
coffee shop or something like this, like oopsies, that kind of thing. And out of curiosity, I took that information, so about 5%, and I was like, how many people at any given time have access to the Pentagon? And it was about 27 to 35,000 people. And so if it's on the high end, 35,000 people, and 5% of people are doing stupid shit and they're leaving their badges places, that's 1,700 people a day are doing
Yeah.
stupid stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's a pretty substantial security problem.
Yeah. So if you were to take like one of our long range readers and jump in the subway in New York at 5 p.m., 5:30, I could only imagine what you would walk out with, right? You might not know where all those badges go, but it's sometimes simply putting it away is not enough. Sometimes maybe you need to have like, hey, this goes in this sleeve when you're getting on public transportation instead of just in your pocket. Out of sight, out of mind, yes. But if somebody watched you walk out of that building, watched you put that badge in your right front pocket, they can follow you easily off site and get that token from you, and then gain access. So yeah, complacency is crazy and everything. You think about like the cat and mouse game of red team, blue team, hacker, law enforcement. Like it's always the edge is always going to be on the attacker because they're coming up with concepts that the blue team isn't ready to navigate because they're not doing the same exact thing. So
Yep. And the funny thing is that you mentioned a scenario that uh, we did previously exactly like this, where we had we had people sitting uh, basically at a cafe watching people as they left the building, and then we would just radio them. We would radio our teammates, and we would say things like, okay, this person. We on a signal chat, we just say this person going this direction, right front pocket, and we'd have one of your long range readers and somebody just have a shoulder bag or something and just walk next to them for 5 or 6 seconds, and we get that badge read and just walk off, right? And we must have gotten dozens and dozens and dozens of badges, and it's just like, yeah, it's
it's insane how easily it can happen. When we talk about long range, it's like we call them the not so long range readers. In the optimal environment, yeah, they'll go a good 2 feet, right? But you put that thing in a satchel next to your metal belt, next to your cell phone, and then you're on an engagement. So you got your hotel key, man, all that stuff cascades into poor reads. So being aware of what you have on you can sometimes uh, improve your read range. But in reality, the biggest thing if you're going to do long range cloning is knowing how you're presented to the badge. So if I'm like walking by and the badge is not perfectly parallel with the reader, chances are that it's going to get enough energy to key up and send a signal. It's not going to get a good read. So knowing your body position in relation to where that badge sits uh, plays a huge factor in how far you can actually get away.
so I had somebody mention this to me. Somebody emailed me, and it just sent me this random email. They're like, I bought, at your recommendation, I picked up one of the long range readers, and we must have been like, I was like grinding up against this guy, and I couldn't get a badge read. And he was like, why is that? And I go, okay, well, show me the badge reader you picked up. It's an LF reader. And I go, okay, now take this device, walk up to the card reader, and run it a little frequency detector. It's an HF reader. And they okay, all right, it's yeah. And so it's one of those things like, so the Proxmark, the Flipper, the iCopy, all these things, they can do high and low, right?
Uh,
But you can't, like your long range readers, they are very proprietary, right? Can you explain to people why, no matter how close I'm grinding on somebody with an LF reader, if the card is HF, like I'm gonna have a problem with that?
Yeah, so antenna theory. So when I was in the military, I was a RF guy, I was a radio guy. So no, I know a lot about wave propagation and all that stuff. Building antennas is probably the most complex thing that you can do in RF, right? So RFID, NFC, all that stuff, that has to be tuned specifically. To be able to do it at distance like that, there's the capability. HID would probably absolutely sell a long range, high frequency and low frequency reader combined together. People would buy it, right? But the technology or the science behind putting those two things in there with that much power and that much distance doesn't make sense. So therefore, on the long range side, we've got one or the other. Either you're doing low frequency or high frequency. And this is where it comes into play when you go to do your hit on your target. You figure out what that reader is first. Now, sometimes if it's a multi-class reader, you don't know. I've been on engagements where I've been chasing people down with a high frequency badge, wasn't getting any reads. I was like, oh man, they must have prox cards. I'd switch over to the low frequency reader, chase people around, nothing. The chances of getting a read when you have like mixed badges, now you're not only guessing the technology, but you're guessing who has which technology because they can have any number of cards distributed. But yeah, you get in the smaller form factor, the multi-class SE stuff. It's got the low frequency element and the high frequency element. So using something like a stealth might be your better option in that application. But yeah, and knowing that technology, you, it can be hard, but as long as you do your research and you analyze the reader ahead of time, your target reader, then you'll probably be better off. But there is always that opportunity where you're chasing around badges because you just don't know what the mixture looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that there's an interesting legal problem when it comes to physical pen testing that a lot of people don't consider, right? Say you're inside of a Target building or something and you see a woman's purse and it's open and at the bottom of her purse is her badge. Can you reach in and grab it? It's like probably not. But there's the other aspect of this. Like if I walk up to you and I just use a long range card reader, am I cloning your work badge? Am I cloning your gym? Am I cloning your house if your house is like an RF badge or something? But interestingly, you can bypass all of those legal issues if you use a stealth reader
Absolutely.
because you don't have to. You're not like, well, I don't know what's in her purse. I don't know what's in her pocket. I don't know what I'm grabbing. But if I use a stealth reader, I mean, that's kind of on her.
Yeah,
if she
yeah, yeah.
if she presents the wrong badge, like, hey,
Yeah, so the way I kind of see it is it's with the long range readers is it's passive sniffing, right? So you're walking along, that thing's keying up and it's giving you the data that's on that card. Where you, in my opinion, I'm probably way off. Don't listen to me. In my opinion, it's not breaking the law until you take that card data, you write it to another card, and then you go gain unlawful entry into whatever thing it is. I kind of view it as like wireless signals, like someone sending like passwords over an open wireless. If someone's listening, they're going to catch them, right? Kind of same thing applies with RFID. That's probably bad advice. Don't just go and collect badges all day long. But I think if you cross the threshold when you write it and go gain unlawful entry versus just collecting it.
no, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, so I mean, if it's no different than running Wiggle, right? If I'm in an environment and I'm running, so sorry for anybody who doesn't know, Wiggle is like a little Wi-Fi app that you can have on your phones, and it'll just sniff all the Wi-Fi signals around you. And yeah, I mean, if you're running around, driving around, war driving, or anything else, and I'm running Wiggle, which people do every day, I don't think there's anything illegal about that.
Mhm.
But if I then took that information and I said, oh, hey, there's a unique BSSID that I want to try and screw with, it's like, okay, then
Yeah.
you've crossed that line.
I captured that WPA handshake. I'm going to go crack it and I'm going to come back over here and get some free Wi-Fi next time I'm eating dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
Um, and for anybody listening to this who's on maybe on the blue team, maybe if you're on the C-suite or you're have any kind of decision making abilities, one thing that you should consider. I'm curious to get Travis's take on this. Is that oftentimes you can do things with physical access that you just can't do over the internet. Like if we were talking about Wi-Fi, for instance. Well, if I plug into your Wi-Fi router, I probably don't have to authenticate. And on top of that, 9 times out of 10, if I look at the back of your Wi-Fi router, not only will I have the Wi-Fi password, but I'll have the admin password for the router itself, which means I can do a router takeover and other things. But that would be very tricky to do through the internet, if not impossible, if you've got various types of encryptions or other things. So I'm curious to your take on the whole, like you could probably do a lot of stuff with physical access that you probably can't really do through the internet, or at least as easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you can do any number of things. So things that we like to do is like out of bound communication devices, right? So maybe I plug something in to a computer. It doesn't use Wi-Fi. It doesn't use cellular. Maybe it's using some other obscure means of communication. I can go sit in the parking lot or have a repeater in the parking lot and be at my hotel and then just sniff passively at maybe what keystrokes are being put in there. It doesn't always have to be some type of malicious, hey, I'm going to get a C2 shell out of this environment. when you look at security controls this day and age, there's a lot of detective controls. There's a lot of egress prevention stuff. But if I do it completely out of band and I'm just passively listening to stuff, I don't even have to interact with it. You're not going to be able to do that unless you gain physical entry and put that bug on the CEO's keyboard, right, in line or what have you.
No, absolutely. It's one of those things that if I said something like, and I'm not picking on Google here, but if I said, I want you to listen in to the big, important, super secret meeting at Google headquarters and do it through the internet. You're talking about like chaining God knows how many 0 day social engineering people, maybe getting NSO Group to give you the Pegasus software or something. And like, but if I ask the janitor to put a listening device in that room, it's like, okay, that's way easier.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Good luck with your 8 weeks, 12 weeks of prep time. And there's probably some really good red team guys out there that can compromise it faster. But if you're going to do it and not get detected, it's going to be low and slow and a lot of effort for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And the funny thing is that if I was to ask, okay, who do I think could do it better? The NSA's top guys, assuming they don't have the NSA tools, like they're just the
Mhm.
guy, not like the NSA actual tools where they backdoored everything already anyway. But if I said like one of the NSA's top guys, if listen in on this meeting through however many 0 day exploits, or somebody like you break into the building and just plant the listening device, it's like, dude, I'm going to put my money on you every time.
Well, you're going to make me blush, but
Well, I
it
mean,
would
like,
be fun. I'd absolutely be. I'm not saying I'm going to go and tap Google's CEO's headquarters unless he wants to reach out, and I'm happy. I'm open to consulting work. Um, but yeah, I'm down for any of that stuff.
all right, Google, you have infinite money. You know what to do now. But that begs the question here: is, in your opinion, what is a mature physical security like today? Like, what if a company has mature physical security? What exactly does that look like?
So it doesn't matter at all about technology. That I don't that the layered security. Mature to me is layered security and people that are one passionate about what they do and why they do it, and then you have the right people at every phase that take everything seriously. Um, Ralph, my business partner, and I, we're getting ready to start our podcast. Right? It's going to be the Satire Sec podcast. Our industry is wound really tight. Everything's so serious, so we're just going to make fun of everybody. We don't care who you are. It's just going to be satire. Nothing malicious, but it's just going to be funny about the news. But there's a time and a place for that. When it comes to physical security, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. when you're on shift, it has to be tight. Everything is a potential incident, an active shooter. It could be somebody that you've known for 20 years that got laid off 20 minutes ago and you didn't know about it. Now they're disgruntled. You have to be on your game. You have to know exactly what it is that you're there to do and be ready to execute. That is what a mature security program to me looks like.
So it's not. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. But it's not just the best cameras, the best this, the best that. It's
No,
it's
we get back to intent, right? I'm going to get past it. I don't care what you put. I'm going to get past it. Biometrics, I've gotten past biometrics. We're going to get past it. What we're not going to get past is that employee, that security guard that saw something for a fraction of a second that looked off and said something about it. That's going to end everything right then and there.
what should. So I know that when it comes to employees and security guards, one thing that is a huge kind of sticking point is there's this voice in the back of people's minds like, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Yeah, I had a bad feeling about that guy, but man, what am I wrong? Like, I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to, I don't want to go cause a ruckus. If, like you said earlier, like, what if that's the CEO's kid? I don't know that.
Yeah, that's just you might have those feelings, but you have to, as a business, as a leadership team, as an organization, you have to foster see something, say something. You have to. And fire any middle manager that belittles someone for seeing something and saying something that was wrong. That's toxic. That's not good for anybody. Get that person out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed, 100%. Travis, where can people find you, and where can people find your training?
Sure. Yeah. So you can, for training, go to physicalexploit.com. For gear, store.physicalexploit.com. If you want to get Atlas, atlas.mwgroup.io. You can find me on LinkedIn, Travis Weathers. I'm sure I'll pop up if you search it with physical security. Um, on X, it's T Weathers Sec. GitHub, it's T Weathers Sec. And then here in the near future, YouTube at Engineered Entry.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here, Travis. And I will link all of that into the description for anybody who's interested in learning more about it, following Travis, or buying some of his equipment or taking his training. Travis, thank you very much for being here today. It was a pleasure chatting with you, buddy.
Brian, it's always great talking to you. Happy to be on anytime.
Thanks, man. All right. Bye, everybody.